Welcome to the Resolution Records Week 3. I'm your host, Jess, and let's get after it. So if I sound awful today, it's because I've got like this whole sinus congestion thing going. I'm hoping that it'll be gone by next week. If not, my doctor's gonna be seeing me. Color du jour is OPI's Chopsticks and Stones. I got all blue going on, so we're gonna do the nails to match. And I did have to chop these a bit shorter because I totally ripped off the top of my thumbnail and then I had a giant crack in my other thumbnail that was halfway down the nail, and it's finally grown out enough that I can do a big chop. As always, going in with Dermalect for my base coat, 2 coats, and today I am going in with Makeover. While I'm getting this base coat on, let's go ahead and review those goals. So for my New Year's resolutions for the year of 2025, I am looking to get my front splits, I'm looking to lose a little weight, do a low/no buy, and then read 25 books in 2025. First up, let's talk about the front splits. I'm going to go ahead and overlay my progress on the screen here. As you can see, it seems like I've regressed a little bit with my right splits, and that's honestly something that I kind of expected. I took about 3 days off this week. I just was not feeling it this weekend, and I think it might have been Wednesday that I skipped as well. I'd have to double check. I'm not really sure why I skipped. I couldn't tell you. I probably, if asked on that day, I had a good reason for doing it. But I've pretty much got touchdown on the left side. I notice my left hip flexor is significantly more flexible than my right. And I'm not sure if that's just due to natural variation in flexibility or if it has something to do with the fact that my scoliosis, actually I have 2 curves in my spine. And they are uneven, so I'm wondering if maybe having one hip higher than the other is making a difference. I don't know. Damn, this is a good base coat. No, I got a Cali hair. Okay, well, I am going to have a cat hair memorialized on my right ring finger for however long I keep this nail polish on. I am definitely not someone who keeps their nail polish on for very long. I tend to repaint every other day, if not every 3 days. I wish I could be one of those people who keeps it on until it chips, but that's just not the kind of gal I am. Let's talk a little bit about the weight loss one, which I'm kind of dreading this update. For a quick refresh, my starting weight at the beginning of this journey was 182.3 pounds. That is 82.7 kilograms for those of you using the metric system. Last week, I weighed in at 172 pounds, that's 78 kilograms. Today, I weighed in this morning at 172.8 pounds, or 78.3 kilograms. So this is another 0.8 pound gain from the previous week. And so like I said last week, if that trend was continuing, I was gonna go ahead, reevaluate my plan, and pivot as needed. Yeah, I'm pretty frustrated about it, but you know what? It's not really anything other than a number and an indication of, am I going in the direction that I would like to go? So right now I am not going in the direction I'd like to go, so it's time to shift. Let's talk about what I am doing. Now, I am still fairly certain that this weight gain is due to tapering off of my meds, because earlier this week, I spiked up all the way to 174 pounds. I do weigh myself on the daily. I know that that is not necessarily the right course of action for everyone. If that is not right for you and you are on a weight loss journey, don't do it. For me, I find it pretty reassuring to see what the fluctuations are and be able to really see what the overall trend is versus a blip every single week. I like a lot of data. With such a significant peak, I do think that it is still maybe some water retention going on, but that doesn't mean that I can't reassess, reevaluate, and change up my plan, which I am doing. Here's how I'm pivoting. First up, I am doubling my step count. For the past week or so, I've been getting back into my walking routine, and I've been getting about 4,000 steps a day, so I'm doubling that to 8,000. It's pretty easy for me to get my steps in. I do have a walking pad because last year at the allergist told me that it would be a very bad idea for me to be in very hot or very cold conditions. I live in Michigan. Does this doctor not know that this is the state of very hot and very cold weather? But my husband was kind enough to buy me a walking pad, so I can just trot along as I watch YouTube or, listen to a podcast. It's very easy for me to get steps in, so this hasn't been a problem for me this past week. Next up, I am getting back into working out regularly with my husband. So before our kind of winter break, we were working out in the mornings 2 to 3 times a day. I can't say I love waking up at 6 a.m. to lift weights, but I will say that I notice when I'm doing a significant amount of weightlifting and core work, I notice my improvement in the dance studio pretty significantly. So I'm getting back into that. And then the last thing that I'm doing to pivot up my weight loss journey is I am not eating back my exercise calories going forward. That's something that I've been doing recently is if I have a hard exercise in the dance studio, I have allowed myself to eat back those calories. And in previous weight loss journeys, that's actually something that I've gone back and forth on. But clearly, because the trend is not going the way I would like it to, I am either overeating or under exercising. I'm going to play around with those numbers a little bit as far as what I'm including in my calorie tracking, and we'll go from there. I don't anticipate there really being any challenges in my weight loss journey this week. I did end up going a little overboard on the sweets at my in-laws this past weekend. It's a little hard not to. My mother-in-law, Amy, I love you. You're a phenomenal baker, and I hate you for it. This week, I am not anticipating really any challenges. The only calorie-related activity that I'm doing this week is I'm going to see Nosferatu tonight with my husband. We are huge horror movie buffs. You'll probably learn this about me a little bit more as we get into August of this year. But every year, we do a 2-person horror film festival, so I'm looking forward to that, and we gotta go see this one in theaters. There's no way we're not doing that. That's where I'm at for the weight loss. Now let's talk about the low buy. Through the magic of video editing, here is what my expenses have been. As you can see, I did use my once a month dine out pass in my no buy rules to get some Chinese food. I was not feeling like cooking. I was headed home from the studio, and honestly, I had a craving for General Tso's chicken. And our Chinese restaurant near us, oh my god, they do the best General Tso's. There were also some pretty large expenses. I had some healthcare related expenses because I did have to go see the allergist for a checkup. And then I had to fill up my car. Typically, I don't fill up my car very often. It's maybe once every 2 weeks because I do work from home. But right now, my husband's car is out of commission, so I'm expecting gas to be a little bit of a bigger portion of my budget. And that being said, the weekly spend is pretty hefty. It is $217. And then the year-to-date expenses are $389. Now, a few notes about my expense tracking. My husband and I auto-contribute into a high-yield savings account. We put about 30% of our direct deposit in there, and that is the account that we use to pay for home insurance, our mortgage, things of that nature. So anything that is a fixed expense is already going from that account. I don't ever see that money, so I'm not really counting it in my expense tracking, just because that feels a little bit ridiculous to me. This past week, I found it fairly easy to keep up with my no-buy. There's been a few things that have tempted me, but not too horribly, and especially the fact that I cannot drive right now because my husband is using my car. That makes it pretty easy to not leave the house and go spend money. I am anticipating a bit of a challenge because, got some great news, I'm getting a bonus this quarter, which is amazing. But now I have all this extra money that I am not supposed to spend. So here's my plan for it. I am planning to put a fair amount into our high yield savings account because we do have a plumber's debt to pay off. We had a pipe break in our kitchen back in October. That was not a cheap fix, and so we did have to finance it because we wanted to keep some of our money in our emergency savings. So I'm putting some money towards that as a payment on principal only. And then another portion of my bonus I'm planning on putting into my personal savings account for some of my medical expenses. So clearly, if you can't tell, I am not the healthiest person when it comes to medical stuff. I have some breast issues where I need to go in pretty frequently for MRIs and ultrasounds. Had to have a biopsy back in November. So chances are, those are going to rack up some pretty hefty costs before my deductible is finished. I also go regularly to therapy, which has been wonderful, and it is worth every penny. If I didn't pay so much for it, I would want my therapist to have a raise, but I can't pay you anymore, Sarah. And then the last little bit that's left over, I am actually going to put towards a couples massage for my husband and I as a Valentine's Day gift. So I went a little bit back and forth on if this would violate the rules of my no-buy, but ultimately I decided to do a no-buy because I wanted to have more gratitude for the things that I own and stop accumulating things. So a massage is an experience rather than a thing, so I'm cool with doing that. Oh God. Having to roll sleeves while having wet nails is a trial. That is my plan for my bonus, and I will make sure to keep you updated next week, see what the spending is. I am anticipating next week I'll probably be paying a few more utilities bills. Some of those are quarterly, so they do tend to be pretty hefty. Let's talk about some empties from this week. So unlike last week, I do actually have some empties to show you. I have 2. I did technically finish off a Bath & Body Works soap, but hand soap kind of feels like a ridiculous thing to show off as an empty because of course I am going to use hand soap, and of course I am going to repurchase it. If you're not using hand soap and you're not repurchasing it, you're nasty. So the empties for this week. I did actually fully finish out a nail polish remover. There is like maybe a drop or 2 in here that I can't get out. And then some body lotion. I fully finished this sucker off. Now, the body lotion, it was fine. Honestly, I would rather repurchase the, do you say it EOS or EOS? I don't know. But I would much rather repurchase that one, the Vanilla Cashmere lotion. I think that has been my all-time favorite lotion to date. You, cat hair. Which one of you did this? I have a few hate pans to get through first before I am allowed to repurchase that one. So right now I'm working my way through my Gold Bond Colloidal Oatmeal one that I got when I was having severe hives and was told that it was eczema. It's not eczema, it's hives. But that one's a perfectly nice lotion. I prefer scented lotions because they make me feel fancy. And then the one that I am really dreading using is my Aveeno Eczema Therapy Nighttime Balm because that makes me feel like a little slug. And I don't vibe with that. The moment you've all been waiting for. Let's get into the perfumes. This week I ended up wearing Ari and Florence as well as Pure Grace again. As far as new perfumes that I haven't talked to you about, I wore a couple. We did actually end up cracking into the body sprays this week, and I did bring those out in front of my fancy little tray here. So the 2 body sprays that I did end up using were Bath & Body Works If You Musk. I believe that this is meant to be a Glossier U dupe. I've never gotten my hands on Glossier U. I am an Ulta girl, not a Sephora girl, so I haven't been able to smell a sample of that or a blotter of it. But it's meant to be like airy musk, pink pepper, and iris. I really get pear from this. Maybe it's my body chemistry. I don't know. It's nice, it's clean, it's simple, it's a very easy wear. The other body spray that I wore, I'm going to be very, very sad when this runs out, even though Bath & Body Works perfumes, or fine fragrance mists, I have never ended up fully finishing one. Dream in the Sky. So this is lavender, sugar, and butter. And honestly, I think that we should bring back butter as a mainstay perfume note. There's not really a lot that use butter, but it really does lend this lovely creamy... Thank you. I think that more perfumers should be using it. I don't fully know if it's something that's difficult to add in chemically. I do know that some fragrances, or some fragrance notes, it can be really difficult to recreate the scent of something versus other things like rose or jasmine where you can simply extract the note, and that's pretty easy. Now there are some where it's going to be pretty difficult because of just the sheer volume of the ingredient that you're going to have to extract. But things like butter and sugar can be a lot more difficult to recreate in fragrances. So sugar was not really a big note in fragrances until Mugler came out with Alien. And that's, I believe, the compound ethyl maltol was used to create that really sweet, sugary scent. And it's become a real mainstay. And that's kind of why we have this gourmand renaissance. It's super cool. Now, the other new fragrance or new to you fragrance that I wore was Good Girl. So this fragrance is pretty divisive. A lot of people say tacky name, tacky bottle. You'll never get me to wear it. But I say I'm tacky and I'm proud. I love this fragrance. This is an amazing one. It is all of the notes that I just eat up. It's got rose, jasmine. I don't know if it's sambac or sambac. If you know how it's pronounced, let me know so I can stop being ignorant. It's got coffee, some vanilla. And one thing that surprised me about this fragrance, I really didn't expect to love it when I test sprayed it in Ulta. It has patchouli, and I hate patchouli. So my weird uncle, we all have one, douses himself in patchouli to the point where you can smell him coming. And as a chronic oversprayer, that takes a lot for me to say about someone. Good Girl is probably the primary compliment getter for me among my collection. The fragrances that get me the most compliments are definitely Good Girl and Ari. I have been told that I smell like a vanilla dream, which, I mean, come on, stroke my ego a little harder. Good Girl is always a go-to for a date night. It's definitely a very heavy perfume because it does have notes of jasmine, almond, coffee, things of that nature. So it's not really necessarily a summer or spring fragrance. It's definitely more fall and winter or evening kind of fragrance, but I do love her. Cringy name and all. Let's talk books. I finally finished hate reading The Games the Gods Play. I'm sorry, Abigail, I really hope you never watched this, but your book was not for me, girl. Wasn't for me. I'm not saying that you can't love it because it does have a really high rating on Goodreads. I think it had something like a 3.93, and usually books like that, you know you're getting into something good. This one, though, I don't know, was not for me. Not a fan. I feel like the Shadow Daddy trope has kind of been overdone, which is going to make you really laugh when you find out what the next book that I'm about to read, and I'm really excited for, is. Because it's Onyx Storm. I don't know if I'm planning to read something in between now and when Onyx Storm is released next Wednesday, but we'll see. That is going to be one of my 12 books that I am allowed to buy for the year. I'm hoping that we end up picking a few books this year from Book Club that are on Kindle Unlimited, because I do pay for that. And if it's on Kindle Unlimited, that frees up some space for me to buy a book. And I believe the second book in A Fate Inked in Blood, which my friend Lucy got me onto, and if you haven't read that one, what are you doing? Go buy it. Go read it. Come talk to me about it. Sit next to me. Let's have a chat. I think that book is coming out this year. I want to say in the summer. Lucy's channel definitely has it, so go subscribe to her. She'll tell you way more about it in way better detail than I ever could. But Onyx Storm comes out this next Tuesday? Yeah, it comes out Tuesday. So I'll be buying that on ebook and devouring it. But I might end up reading Between Two Fires in between now and then, we'll see. But that is one of the 25 books down, so we can tick that off. So that is where I'm at for my resolutions. How are yours going? It's week 3 of the year, let me know. And if you did make it this far into me yapping, please leave me a flying money emoji to let me know that you made it this far. All right, I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye, kisses.